You ever watch a race where by lap 5 you're not asking who's going to win, you're asking how many cars are going to finish on the lead lap? Yeah, China 2026. This episode contains traces of sarcasm, mild disbelief, and one very overworked suspicion bar. Viewer discretion is optional. Ni hao, Papaya Koala here, and yes, I am still the panda. Why? Well, because the main races this year are shaping up to be even less exciting than the sprints. A longer parade equals even more boredom. If things don't change soon, then I suspect that the costumes will be making more of an appearance this year. Formula One has always been about the pinnacle of engineering, the absolute limit of human performance. And occasionally, two cars disappearing into the distance while everyone else politely participates. Thrilling, not. And this year is certainly shaping up to be one of the latter sort. G'day Koala crew, and well, welcome to Cheerful China 2026. We're qualifying when exactly as expected, a nice, tidy arrow front row lockout. The sheep team, of course, described it as a triumph of skill and brilliance, rather than two cars being about half a second a lap faster than everyone else. Minor detail. Well, qualifying went exactly as we all knew it would. A completely unsurprising arrow front row lockout. Again. And the sheep team, bless them, treated it like a masterclass in human brilliance rather than two drivers simply arriving at the front in cars that are more than half a second a lap quicker than the rest of the field. Kimi on pole. And my word, you'd think he'd dragged a supermarket trolley to P1. Youngest pole sitter in history! The coverage, breathless. A new record! Historic! Incredible! Generational! And look, it is impressive, but it does hit a bit differently when it's done in a car that's comfortably half a second, sometimes more, faster than the field. That's not dragging a car to pole, that's parking it there. So let's not pretend he hauled a midfield tractor up there. And let's not pretend there isn't a single driver on the grid who wouldn't have achieved the same thing in that car. There's a difference between creating history and being handed the tools to make it inevitable. And right now, it's looking a lot like the second one. And let's not forget, this is a driver who didn't exactly set Formula 2 on fire. In fact, Kimi's F2 performance should have left him without an F1 ride altogether, not fast-tracked to the senior team, which tells you everything you need to know about the car. How to spot if it's the car or the driver. Quick guide. Same team locking out the front row every race? Equals car. Same two drivers from the same team on the podium every race? Equals car. Huge gap between teammates? Equals driver. Multiple winners across teams? Equals real competition. What we have here is not competition. It's a demonstration. This isn't a mystery. It's not smug George suddenly unlocking hidden greatness. It's not Kimi instantly becoming the greatest team driver ever. It's just a very, very fast car. Now, this is where things get, we'll call it, interesting. Lando, electrical issue, doesn't make the grid. Oscar makes it to the grid, then gets wheeled back off again. Also supposedly electrical, but unlike Lando's well-explained electrical issue, Oscar's is just declared a different electrical issue, with no explanation offered. Given McLando's fairness ethos, you have to wonder if Oscar's car actually had any issue at all, and was just removed out of fairness to Lando. A joke? Maybe. But based on the balance of decisions made last year out of fairness to Lando, maybe not. But the fact that the McLandos are supposed to have the same machinery as the Arrows, it does feel a little staged. Same system, same supplier, same team benefiting, and we're told, just random, nothing to see here. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Last year, Toto was very vocal about not liking customer teams beating the works team. Very vocal. Practically a TED Talk. This year, remarkably calm. Positively glowing in interviews about how wonderful it is for the sport that Kimi is out there breaking records, which is impeccable timing from a PR perspective. Meanwhile, over in Papaya Land, there are other less dubious records being broken. Crucially not the fault of the Papayas, but rather their Arrow-supplied power units. Double DNS. Both cars, same weekend. Now, outside of the 2005 tyre chaos, that sort of thing is, let's say, very uncommon. And Oscar, sadly, back-to-back DNS races. A back-to-back DNS? Even rarer. In fact, the last time we saw that kind of back-to-back DNS misfortune, you have to go all the way back to Bruce McLaren in 1969, which is not exactly a stat you want your current driver casually matching, especially when it is the fault of the power unit supplied by a rival team. Let's just hope Oscar doesn't inherit the full historical package there, because Bruce never got his F1 championship. But here's the awkward bit. Those failures, they don't just sit with McLando, because when you're the power unit supplier, they sit with you. Which means while the factory team is off collecting trophies by the armful, their customers are collecting DNS records. And that creates a bit of a contrast. So that dubious record sits squarely on the arrows. Winning by a huge margin doesn't always scream engineering brilliance. Sometimes it whispers, why does the same equipment look so different over there? And look, fans notice. They always do. Because we've already seen how this plays out. Last year, the whole manufactured outcome situation didn't exactly boost Lando's popularity. If anything, it did the opposite. Lando became brand poison for McLando. The boos don't lie. Winning helps your brand. But only if people believe in the win. So if the current plan is dominate completely, stack up records and hope everyone calls it historic, there's a significant risk it lands more like predictable, questionable, and a bit overcooked. Because no amount of History Boy headlines really fixes the feeling that something's a bit off. And in motorsport, that sus feeling tends to stick. Lights out. And the Forroro Stallions get another great start and jump the arrows. For about 12 seconds we had some hope. Max, another bad start. Sadly, that's 3 in a row. At this point, even he looks like he's questioning life choices. Checo commits the biggest racing sin. Runs into his teammate, our honorary Aussie Valtteri. Ollie Bear and Isaac have a moment. Ollie Bear gives the place back immediately, no drama, and Isaac promptly spins into the gravel anyway. Efficiency. By lap 2, Kimi is back in the lead, and that was that. Race over. We did get a brief moment of racing when smug George pretended to fight the Ferroros, just enough to look exciting, before realizing Kimi hadn't read the script and was already halfway to the next postcode. So smug, George easily slips back into P2 where he remains for the rest of the race. The real action today? Battery levels. Not overtakes. Not late-braking duels. Battery percentages. Watching two drivers swap positions based on charge levels isn't racing. It's excel at 300 kilometers per hour. The broadcast isn't showing the speed and braking anymore. They are literally showing battery percentages like Charles 41% versus Lewis 38%. This isn't wheel-to-wheel. This is power management theater. Then there's the retirement bingo. Excitement. Stroll, battery issue. Alonso retires due to vibrations causing actual physical pain. Ocon and Colapignata crash. Max terminal issue, lap 45. Gabby Albon, Oscar and Lando DNS. Honestly, at this point, the suspense isn't who will win. It's which car will emotionally give up next. Lewis, legend, whinging. I have no power! You need to give me something! Immediately overtakes his teammate. Charles says, that was actually a fun battle. And you know what? Good. Because that was the only part of the race that even vaguely resembled actual racing, even if it was still just Formula battery management. Brilliant. Nothing says elite motorsport like watching who remembered to charge properly. Yeah. Thanks for that, Audi. We're blaming you for this. Kimi wins. By so much he's basically sightseeing. George P2, Lewis P3, rounding out the podium. Charles P4, Ollie Bear P5, genuinely impressive. The rest, somewhere behind, lapped, possibly still racing. And then came the commentary. Here comes History Boy! Right. So the plan now is, if the racing isn't exciting, just try to make the statistics exciting. Break records, push narratives, sell the moment. Because apparently that's easier than fixing the competition. Now this was interesting. When Kimi was announced as the winner, there were polite cheers, but also noticeable boos mixed in. And Kimi noticed. That smile dropped. Then the tears. We're told they were tears of joy. Maybe. But the moment before that, it looked like someone realizing not everyone is buying what's being sold. Carlos finishes P9, over a lap down, same engine, same spec. Apparently. Is Kimi good? Yes. Is he an entire lap better than Carlos Hair? Let's not get silly. Something doesn't quite add up. I'll let you decide. This all feels very familiar. Turbo hybrid era levels of arrow domination, where the only real question was, how many cars will be lapped today? And we all remember how that ended. Fans switched off. They stopped caring. Terminal boredom. Interesting moment post-race. Toto talking about out past and future champions. Plural. So now the question isn't who wins the title, it's which storyline will they go with? Smug George who's done his time, or Kimi youngest ever? Either way, the script's looking pretty well outlined. And since Smug George looks slightly less smug on the second step, perhaps he realizes that Toto is looking for the new record kind of manufactured excitement. This isn't about one driver. This isn't even about one team. It's about what people see. And what people are seeing right now is not engineering brilliance. It's not elite competition. It's a mismatch driven by unfair advantage. And no amount of History Boy headlines are going to change that. So, Koala crew, what do you think? Is this just a dominant team doing everything right? Or are we watching another era of one-team control that risks pushing fans away again? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, or even if you just survived it, hit like, subscribe, and if you really liked it, consider joining the Koala crew. Because someone has to keep an eye on this, and I've got a feeling we're going to need it. Formula One, the pinnacle of motorsport. Just bring a charger.